Welcome to VSM Tech Talk. In today's discussion, we are trying to use the Redis Cache in .NET Core Web API application. In the previous session, we have seen how to install Redis Cache and how we are going to use the key value pair for storing the data in the Redis Cache. I have created one sample API, that's a shopping cart API, which has only one action method, that's a get products list. This method is going to retrieve the list of products from the database, which has information like product ID, product name, stock and product description. Now we are using cache to store this products data in the cache for avoiding the number of hits to the database. So I have provided various steps how to create a .NET Core API, how to use the Redis Cache, and what are the steps are required for the implementation of Redis Cache in the application in the next slides. Now you see this is a Redis Cache server which is required to run whenever you are using this cache. To test this server, we need to ping it. You already know, you have seen that previous video. We are using set key and get key to retrieve the data from the Redis Cache. To save time, I have implemented the application. So I am going to follow the steps to show you how I have implemented this Redis Cache. Let's see. Step 1. Creating a .NET Core API web application. Now I have created one sample application. The application name is Web API-Redis Sample. Step 2. Install the required NuGet packages. So we are using packages like .NET Core, EntityFramework.NET Core, EntityFramework.SqlServer, Tools, and StackExchange.Redis packages. So let's go to that. Right click on the application. Manage NuGet packages. Go to that installed packages. What are the packages installed? Required packages. .NET Core, SQL Server, so Newton.json, Redis Cache. These are the various packages which are installed in this application. Now we are using product class because we are going to get the product information from the database. So a product class is required to store the product information. So let's go to the application. I have a model folder where we have a product class. In this product class, I have information we are going to store is product ID, product name, stock, product description. This is a product class is required to hold the product information. Now the step 4 is create the DbContextClass for database related operations. If you want to make a connection to the database or do the database operations, we need DbContextClass. That class is there in data folder. So the DbContext name is shopping cart DbContext.cs. Open that. So we are going to use only one table, that's the products table, where we are storing the product information. So that's why dbset is only one dbset we are using here. This is the shopping cart DbContext, which is implementing DbContextClass. Now step 5. We are going to create ICacheService interface and CacheService class for Redis Cache related uses. To implement Redis Cache, I need two classes. One is an interface where we have ICacheService. In this interface, we are writing two methods. One is get data, second one is set data. By using this get data, we are going to retrieve the data based on some key from the Redis Cache server. To store the data into the server, Redis Cache server, we are using set data. It is taking three parameters. One is key, value, and the expiration time. Key is used to store the data based on the representation, based on the key value pair. So it's a unique key. With the help of unique key, we are going to store the data in the database, and while retrieving, we are using the same key to retrieve the data from the cache. So expiration time is nothing but how long this cache needs to use this data from the cache server. Suppose if you are using 5 minutes, after 5 minutes, again whenever we are going to retrieve the data from the cache, it will go and hit the database and get the data. So that is the main purpose of expiration time. Now interface is there. Definitely we need to implement the interface. That is implemented in CacheService.cs. So ICacheService is there. We are implementing in CacheService class. As I told you, get data, set data. This get data is used to get the data from the cache database. That is, we are deserializing the data which is stored, and we are serializing the data when we are storing in the cache server. So the config Redis method is used to make a connection to the Redis cache server. So far we followed 5 steps for creating a .NET Core Web API application, creating the Redis Cache interface and implementation, as well as DbContextClass, product class. Now we need to implement a product controller class in the step 6. Let's go to the project. Click on the controller class. We have a product controller where we have only one method for implementing the get products list logic. So this is a product controller class where which is controller is a base class. Now what happened here is I created only one method that is called get product list. This is a constructor where we are passing the DbContext and ICacheService. So we need a connection to the database. So DbContext is required, and an interface, I mean to say ICacheService interface is there for implementing the cache. So we are passing these two objects to the constructor of the product controller. Now get product list is a method where we are using to retrieve the data from the database and store in the cache. Whenever we are making a call again, we are verifying in the Redis cache whether the data is available or not. Once the data is available, we are pulling the data from the Redis cache. If not, we are going to hit the database again and store the data in the cache again. So that's the reason we have a CacheService.get data we are using. So we are trying to retrieve the data from this get data method and store in the cache data variable. If that cache data is not null, that means there is a data available in the cache. So we are returning this data whenever you are calling this get product list. If this cache is null, that means the data is not available in the cache. So we are hitting to the database and get this list stored in the cache object. This object is going to store with the help of set data. So verifying the cache first. If data is available, we are retrieving the data from the cache. If not available, we are hitting the database and store the data in the cache. This is how the logic is implemented in the get product list. Now so far product controller also implemented. Now we need add a SQL Server connection string and Redis URL inside the appsetting.json file. So this is so far we have done the logic implementation, but practically we need to do the connection to the database. So to do the connection to the database, definitely we need to provide the connection string. In the appsetting.json file, we have a Redis URL where this is the 127.0.0.1:6379 is the server URL of the Redis cache. This URL is used to connection to this Redis cache server. Now we are using connection string to make a connection to the database. My database name is shopping cart, and we are hitting the database with the help of this connection string. Step 8. We created CacheService class. Now we need to register in the program.cs file. Go to this program.cs file. We are going to create instance of the Redis Cache service and as well as connection DbContextClass. So step 8. Builder.service.add scope ICacheService, CacheService. This is going to create instance of a cache service, and the below step is going to create instance for the connection DB context. Now step 9 is we need to configure, we need to create a configure manager class. This class is used to create a connection or configuring the DB context class. Step 10. Create connection helper class for Redis connection. Connection helper class. With the help of connection helper class, we are making a connection to this Redis cache by using this Redis URL. This Redis URL is mentioned in the appsetting.json file. So with the help of that, we are making a connection to this Redis Cache server. We are connecting to this database with the help of connection string. We are connecting to this Redis Cache server with the help of Redis URL. The final step is run the application and see the output. Let's run the application to see the output. My API name is products, which is having only one method, get product list. Click on that. When you click on try it out, we will get execute button. So click on execute button. It is hitting the CacheService.get data method, so which we have implemented. So it is verifying the cache with the help of a product key. If the data is available in the cache based on this key, it is going to retrieve the data. So there is no data available in the cache. Now it has to go and hit the database and get the data. Now I got the data from the database. There are 5 records are there. I got the product ID, product description, product name, stock, all the information. I got it. So now I am going to put the data into the cache. So this cache is going to set in the with the product list. This is the list which I got it from the database. Now once I get the data, it is going to store in the cache object. When you hit again, what happened here is it has to verify in the cache first based on the key. With this key, the data is available or not, it is going to verify it here. If the data is available, it is going to get the data from the cache. Yes, data is available. So it is deserializing the data and we are getting the data from the cache only. So I got this 5 records based on the key. So we are retrieving the data from the cache, not from the database. This is how we are implementing the Redis cache to avoid the number of hits to the database.